YouTube, the Western Conference in the NBA has been an absolute chaotic hurdle for every team that wants to make it to the finals in that conference. Last year being no exception. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Dallas Mavericks, who made the finals last year, Los Angeles Lakers, the Golden State Warriors, tons of teams in the mix. But there's one team in particular that nobody's talking about that I think is being quite literally slept on in the Western Conference that is absolutely terrifying, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. The reason I think no one's talking about Memphis is because last year they had a little bit of a transition season, right? You have Ja Morant with the suspension, comes back for a few games, gets injured. Unfortunately, they dealt with injuries, I mean, almost to every player on that team, right? But coming out of that season, you actually find some really good talent through all the chaos and, injury depth issues that I think you can carry over really well to next season, right? And some notable players being Santi Aldama, Jaren Jackson, and Vince Williams, right? These are guys that showed a ton of flashes, even Scotty Pippen Jr. showing a lot of credibility as a backup point guard. I think the Memphis Grizzlies are terrifying in the Western Conference, and if I'm a fan of a contender, I need to start paying attention to Memphis right now. In this video, I'm going to talk about what they have going for them next season, why I think they are clear and obvious contenders in the Western Conference next season, no question about it. Memphis is on the rise, they're back, and they're going to be hungrier than ever to prove everybody wrong, and we're going to talk about their chances as far as every Western Conference team next season. Let's get right into it, folks. So obviously, the first thing you have to mention when you're talking about the Grizzlies in 2025 is Ja Morant, right? Assuming he's healthy next season, this is a guy that I would assume, he's had his struggles off the court. We're not going to get into that, but this is a guy that, again, I would assume is hungrier than ever to prove everybody wrong about him, right? And I'm sure he's been labbing up to the max to get his body right, get his, mental health right, and have all the things going on with him. Come back next season and just shut everybody up, man. That's what I want to see out of Ja Morant. Clearly being one of the most talented players in the league. You can't go 5 minutes without seeing an NBA top 10, top 20 lists on Twitter, and he's never even on there anymore, right? This is a guy that is absolutely a top 10 talent in the league, and I think, next season you will see that on the floor from night to night. This team will only go as far as Ja Morant goes, and that is clear and obvious, but I think, next season will be a make or break season for him, but I have a ton of hope in Ja Morant's future in the NBA. I'd bet money that he's coming back stronger than ever next season. Let's talk about Desmond Bane. In my opinion, one of the more underrated players in the entire NBA. When you talk about young guards that offensively are just absolute nightmares to cover, Desmond Bane has to be brought up, and he's usually not, right? Desmond Bane last season basically taking the reins from Ja Morant as he was down a lot of times, showing a lot of on-ball creation leaps in his game, right? This is a guy that's improved every year of his career, last season no exception. Desmond Bane was excellent last season and showed, again, a lot of strides in his on-ball creation game. We got to talk about Triple J, right? Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., wins Defensive Player of the Year in 2023, comes back last year, as the number 2 option on this team and really had a little bit of struggles, right? Triple J is a elite defensive talent and has a lot of offensive game to him as well. He's not the most efficient offensive player, and I think his role is best suited as a 3 or a 4th option, but this is a guy that's, one of the more talented power forwards in the league, and he's still a young player, still developing, right? But he can shoot the ball from the outside, Defensive Player of the Year candidate every season. A lot of times, the Grizzlies with their center issues were forced to play Triple J at the 5. Didn't really work out so well last season. I don't think he's a center, right? He's just not. So, bringing in Zach Edey in the draft is going to be really big for him to be able to just basically, maximize his ability and do what he does best, right? And I think Triple J has a big time bounce back season next year with everybody back and healthy and ready to compete. Marcus Smart was acquired in the trade, that you sent Tyus Jones to the Wizards, Kristaps Porzingis involved in that deal. Marcus Smart struggled to stay healthy and on the floor last season, only playing 20 games, but this is again a guy that I think has been a little bit slept on. People saying, since the Celtics won the finals and KP had such a good year with them, they scammed the Grizzlies, right? And I don't think that. I really don't. It's not looking great right now, but Marcus Smart is, again, another DPOY player who is going to play as hard as anybody in the league, right? He has his limitations shooting wise, and maybe sometimes has a tendency to make some bad decisions and be overly aggressive offensively, but this is a great role player in this league still, and if he can stay healthy next season, that is the big thing for the Grizzlies, is gonna be their overall health. But assuming everybody's healthy, man, Marcus Smart is going to make a giant impact paired with Ja Morant next season. Brandon Clarke is a player that I think has had kind of an interesting career with Memphis. Coming off of that ACL injury, ended up playing 6 games last year, but him coming back for the Grizzlies is as a high energy, hard-working big man, power forward, center, whatever you want to put him as. I think, his impact, again, another guy that once he gets his body right is going to make a splash, big return season next year. And I think Brandon Clarke Clarke is an underrated player as well. They have a lot of underrated players on the Grizzlies. Again, through all the inner turmoil and chaos injury-wise and just depth-wise, you end up finding a really good trio of players. And we're going to start with Jaren Jackson, who I think had one of the best rookie seasons of anybody last year. And it really didn't start until, a decent way through the season, right? And Jaren Jackson, in my opinion, he's a 3 or a 4, but has great upside offensively. I mean, this is a guy that has a natural pure shooting ability to him, right? This guy is a shooter, and he's got great size to be able to get those shots off against anybody. His mechanics are super sound and fluid, right? And just offensively, I think you got a potential, 20 points a game scorer in the future. We'll have to see what his role is next season, but he is that talented offensively, in my opinion. I'm really excited to see him in a setting where, the Grizzlies are competitive and see what, how great his role can be and how amazing he can be as that, stretch forward type option for the Grizzlies. Santi Aldama, kind of a, do it all offensive kind of forward. He can play the 4. I think he's best as a 4. He'll probably be a backup 4 next season, but has ability to step in at the 5 sometimes. I don't think he's the best center, but this is a guy that can rebound, shoot, and pass as a big man, and that's always, a positive offensively for a big man. So again, it's kind of hard to gauge a lot of these guys because, they're kind of last year, there was a lot of just chaos going on with that lineup. So, to see them in their, natural role as a competitive team, I think is going to be really important to judge their ceiling and their play. But, Santi Aldama is definitely a offensive, positive player for any lineup he's going to be in. So, I like Santi Aldama, right? You're probably going to lose Luke Kennard in free agency, I would imagine, but that's okay. You do have enough shooting at, with Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson. And listen, Vince Williams, one of my favorite player on the Grizzlies, played 52 games last season and, getting a multi-year extension with the Grizzlies. But, this is a do-it-all type of guy. He is a defensive nightmare to go against, right? He can guard multiple positions at that wing position, right? Really good athlete and just does a lot of things for you. He can handle the ball, he can play make, and he can get his own shot sometimes and score, right? So I think, Vince Williams may be one of the biggest discoveries for the Grizzlies, right? And definitely one of my favorite players as a role player in the league. I think his ceiling is super high as a role player. You could be looking at a do-it-all gadget type of guy for Memphis in Vince Williams Jr. Scotty Pippen Jr. played a lot of games for the Grizzlies, ending this season, ended up with 21 games, like I said, towards the end of the season, most of them. But this is a guy with a really good playmaking ability to him, and a really efficient shooter. I mean, Scottie Pippen Jr. ended up shooting the ball at all 3 levels pretty well, especially from 3. I mean, this was one of your best shooters last season, all things considered, but 42% on threes on, 3.4 attempts per game is really good in a limited role. And it'd be interesting to see his role moving forward with the team, because you have maybe a logjam at point guard with Marcus Smart and Ja Morant. But if you want a little bit more controlled playmaking, I think Scottie Pippen Jr. is a good option. He's a little bit small, but, he will have to play point guard, no question. But, Marcus Smart is able to play the 2. So I think that could be a situation you see there. Desmond Bane at the 3, Triple J at the 4, or Gigi at the 4. You go out and you select Zach Edey, 9th overall in the NBA draft. I've had a little bit of criticism for this pick. I don't think he might be the best fit defensively for the Grizzlies, and I'm not sure he is a starting caliber center just yet in his career. And with his, athletic limitations, primarily the mobility defensively, I think it could be an issue at times, but you do have Jaren Jackson Jr. to make up for a lot of those mistakes, right? And that is something that I think is underrated in this situation with Zach Edey, is that, when you have a great league-wide great player like Triple J defensively, he can cover up for a lot of mistakes from other players. And I think you're going to see that a lot of times with Zach Edey in the lineup. I think offensively, though, this is a great move for the Grizzlies selecting Zach Edey because he is a mismatch nightmare for opposing bigs, and that gives Jaren Jackson Jr. a lot of space to operate outside of the paint, right? And he's had his best when he's operating outside of the paint, honestly, on both ends of the floor, right? If you have Zach Edey, basically clogging up the lane defensively, right? Jaren Jackson can basically roam as a free safety and just swat any shot he wants on the weak side, right? So that is one thing that I think is really good. His pairing Zach Edey with Triple J, I like that for the Grizzlies. Just not sure he's ever going to be a 30-minute per game guy with his size and defensive limitations, but overall you do get better at the 5 position if you're the Memphis Grizzlies. I think, there's still room to grow and, depth to be had at that 5 position. I think Zach Edey is going to be a great rebounder. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. needs to be a little bit better of a rebounder, but you will have to help rebound from the guards, right? right? Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Jackson, Ja Morant, they're all going to have to crash the boards, right? Offensively, I think your rebounding is good, but you do lack a little bit of interior presence. You know, Zach Edey could be that guy, but defensively, I'm just not so sure about that. I think the center could end up defining your season once you get into the postseason. You have great centers in the Western Conference. You think about Minnesota with Rudy Gobert and Cat and Naz Reid. You think about Denver with Jokic. You think about OKC now bringing in Isaiah Hartenstein and also having Chet Holmgren. Think about the Lakers with AD, even the Clippers with Zubac, right? There's plenty of great centers in the West, and I think, you know, that could be an issue moving forward for Memphis. There's a lot more depth pieces for the Grizzlies I could talk about, but those are the main ones I wanted to address in this video. You know, all in all, I think Memphis has one of the brightest futures still in the Western Conference, and next season they're going to be hungrier than ever. I think they are up there with Minnesota, OKC, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Nuggets, right? This is that great of a team, I think. You know, we're potentially looking at a top 4 seed in the West next season, and, you know, again, it goes as far as Ja Morant goes, but I think Ja Morant, I would bet money that he has a bounce back season next year. Everyone else can stay healthy and consistent. I mean, you're looking at a potential Western Conference Finals or NBA Finals team. They're that good with the roster they have right now, assuming health isn't an issue. I think you are building a decent culture with Coach Taylor Jenkins. I like Taylor Jenkins as the coach. I like the front office's, you know, commitment to winning. This is a great organization in Memphis, right? This is a team that has a smaller market, but they're very committed to winning. A lot of times these smaller market teams aren't super, you know, willing to spend a ton of money. That is not the Grizzlies. They're going to make moves. They're going to be aggressive. This is a city that loves basketball. They have a great fan base. So if you're watching this video and you're a Memphis fan, I respect you, man. I love the Grizzlies. I'm going to make a video on Zach Randolph in the future. He is one of my favorite players of NBA history. I love Zebo, man. I love that grit and grind era. That was one of my favorite teams of all time. I'm a Sixers fan, but I've just always liked the Grizzlies. But again, I think, you know, just to sum it up shortly, I think they are of that caliber of team, right? You talk about Denver, you talk, you know, Denver losing KCP and, you know, clearly having some depth issues, right? They are of that caliber, you know, tier of team, Memphis, right? So next season, you know, if they can stay healthy, they're just as good as, you know, a Denver or a Minnesota or an OKC. I give them just as good of a chance. I think nobody's talking about this team, right? Because they had a, you know, kind of a transition year with all those injuries and just the stuff going on in the organization. Lineups changing every day, but in that grind, I think, you know, Memphis knows something about grind, maybe more than any team. You find guys like Jackson and Vince Williams who can provide solid quality rotation minutes for you, right? And these are guys with high upside that are young. So people forget, man, this is still a young team. This is a very young team, right? But your whole core is like basically 25 or under. This is still a very young team with a lot of potential, and they are ready to compete now. And as I mentioned, I give them as good of a shot as anybody in the West if everything goes well health-wise, right? Everybody can stay healthy. I might have them in the Western Conference Finals. We'll have to see how they come out at the start of the season. You know, we'll have to see what Ja Morant looks like. But assuming he is Ja Morant next season, you know, again, they're that great. So, you know, this is a terrifying team that, you know, I think people got to start paying attention to again, because, you know, the West is, again, very chaotic, and there's always going to be changes year to year. It's just so good. There's just so many great teams in the West, and all of them, most of them got better this season in the offseason, free agency and stuff like that. So expect the Grizzlies to be a playoff team no matter what. I mean, I would put everything in my bank account on that they're going to be a playoff or play-in team next season and have a chance to compete. Again, assuming health isn't an issue, I'd have them as a, you know, top 5 seed in the West. So, you know, hang in there, Memphis. You had a tough season. You know, you're getting a little disrespected right now. There's a ton of, you know, bad stuff going on over the past few years with Ja Morant and all that. But at the end of the day, you will be laughing at the end of the season, I believe. And that is why the Memphis Grizzlies are terrifying. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys drop a like if you did. Subscribe to this channel if you guys want to see NBA content just like this every single day. We upload all things NBA every day, right? We're going to be covering free agency, trades, Summer Olympics. I can promise you, you know, if you're interested in NBA content, subscribe to the channel. You're going to get NBA content every single day. Videos similar to this on the channel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys follow my socials. Again, Memphis Grizzlies fans, let me know down in the comment section what you think of this video. Do you think I'm kind of spot on, or do you think I'm missing some pieces of it? You know, it's always great to hear from the fan base of these teams, because I know as well as anyone, as a, you know, dedicated Sixers fan, a lot of people mischaracterize my team just a little bit, right? Even if you're, you know, they have good intentions like I think I do with representing the team well, there's just certain things you miss if you're not paying close attention to them every day like a, you know, Grizzlies fan would. So let me know all that, you know, stuff that I'm missing down in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. You guys always educate me. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to be wrong. You know what I mean? I'm wrong every day. I'm wrong every day, and I don't pretend I'm not. So if you guys have some criticism or, you know, stuff you want to share with me info wise, I'm always receptive to it. I try to be, so that would be greatly appreciated. If you feedback's always really important for the channel. Love you guys. Thank you guys for all the support as of late, and I will catch you guys in the next one. This is your boy D-Have, and as always, peace.